What up, wizards? It's Dev and chat from Twitch. Say hello to YouTube, chat. YouTube, say hello to chat. It's Dev from the place we like it of Magic, and we have got mom spoilers. I didn't know that was happening today. I guess I don't know why. Spoiler season really snuck up on me, and maybe some of you this season. I had no idea that it was about to go down, but it did. Wizards released like 50 cards today. It was an unconscionable, an irresponsible amount of cards to release. I think we can all agree. And it's a lot to get to. So I'm not going to pussyfoot around no longer. We're going to talk about cards that came out today, and we're just going to kind of do it in order of spoiling, but backwards, basically. There's so much to talk about. Not only a million cards, a lot of them are very powerful looking. The set looks powerful already, but there's new mechanics, obviously, and there's new card type even. So we gotta go. Let's put on the jets and let's talk some Magic, ladies and gentlemen. Let's first look at Joyful Storm Sculptor. All right, we're in there. We're doing it, ladies and gentlemen. Joyful Storm Sculptor is 5 mana, 3 a blue and a red for a 2/3 human shaman. And when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 blue and red elemental creature tokens. Elemental. Whenever you cast a spell that has Convoke, Joyful Storm Sculptor deals 1 damage to each opponent in each battle they protect. What does all that mean? We'll get to battles a little bit later, but this obviously is a signpost for Convoke. Hey, there's Convoke in this set. One of my favorite abilities of all time. I really like Convoke as a mechanic. I think it's awesome, and I'm glad that we have it back. And this is just a cool little card. This is mostly just limited playable, so I'm not going to spend too long on it, right? But it is 5 mana for 3 bodies. Like, let's go a little bit. It gives you bodies to Convoke stuff with. It deals damage to things. Like, oh, that's cool. All that's kind of cool, but 5 mana is a bit much for standard. I think we can, even not knowing what battles do, right? Like, does that make the card way better? Not really. So let's keep moving to Hoarding Broodlord. Broodlord is actually a very sick card, I think. When I posted about the set on Twitter, I put this in like my top 4 cards of the day. I actually think it's kind of disgusting. This is 8 mana. This is 5, but despair not. We'll get to it. 8 mana, 5 and 3 black for 7/6 dragon with flying and Convoke. Now there's no reminder text. This was spoiled on Arena, so that's why the card looks kind of weird. But the reminder text on Convoke is, your creatures can help you cast this spell. Yeah, the reminder text actually says, your creatures can help you cast this spell. For each creature that you tap when you cast this spell, you reduce the cost by 1 mana. Not colored mana, but one of these 5 mana over here. You can reduce the cost by tapping a creature. So that means that this actually costs 3 black mana, basically, for a 7/6 flyer. And when it ETBs, you search your library for a card, exile it face down so your opponent doesn't know what it is, and you shuffle. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may play it. Spells you cast from exile have Convoke. So the thing that you go and tutor up with this 7/6 body. And by the way, you can just go tutor up another one, like your DJ Khaled, another one. And it seems like it'd kind of be fun to chain these, you know what I mean? But if you just have a few tokens out, this becomes 4 mana to cast, or 3 mana to cast if you have enough tokens. And like, that's doable, It's a lot like your dad. It's doable. I could see that actually like working, So I think it's a little bit win more, and it's a big fat man and all that stuff, But it is a cool reanimation target. First of all, if nothing else, it is a reanimation target that goes and tutors a card, and then has an awesome line of text. Spells you cast from exile have Convoke is an awesome line, because not only can it cast the thing that it exiles, the thing it tutors, but you can cast like, in Historic, let's say you cast an adventure, right? And when you cast an adventure, the creature goes over here, and it's in exile, and you can play it from exile. Well, you can play like Murderous Rider for less mana if you have a Broodlord out. That's kind of cool, In Standard, if they like soul partition your guy, then you can Convoke the guy back into play because he's being played from exile. There's a cool like little 2% lines that are available with that line of text. I think are pretty cool. But for the most part, I think A, reanimation target maybe, but B, playing him pseudo fairly by just tapping like 3 guys. He costs 5 mana. Like, okay, tap 3 dudes, 5 mana, 7/6 flyer. Demonic tutor, sure. Like, it seems okay to me, man. So I could see this actually being like a real card. It's probably going to end up being bulk rare, but like I could see this being a D's card. Well, let's say. Some say, yeah, Commander, maybe. Could be Wallaby, but let's look at Fairgrounds Trumpeter next. This is 3 mana. There are normal cards today. This is one of them. 2 and a green for a 2/2 elephant at the beginning of each end step. If a +1/+1 counter was put on a permanent under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on the Trumpeter. So it just needs one +1/+1 counter to be put on a thing to be like a fair rate. But a 3 mana 2/2, that might never be more than a 3 mana 2. It's just a Scathe Zombies, you know. It's a Gray Ogre. It's a vanilla 2/2 for 3 mana, which is just like almost never good under any circumstances. But you know, I guess it could become a 4/4. So like maybe decent limited, but even then, the curve filler, I don't think it's especially powerful. Ruins Recluse is neat. This is 2 mana, 1 and a green for a 1/1 spider with reach and death touch. And you can pay 3 and a green to put a +1/+1 counter on it. That's actually okay. Again, this is limited playable, where a 1/1 death touch, even at 2 mana, is like acceptable. This has reach, so it blocks those like 5 mana flyers and kills them for 2 mana. Like, okay, that's not bad. And then it's also a mana sink. You know, you get it late in the game, it can immediately be a 2/2, basically. You know, as the turns go by, you draw lands. Put 2 counters on it, you know. It could be a 3/3 or a 4/4 before too long, but just being a 1/1 reach death touch is like a decent baseline. So like, I don't hate this. That's all I'm gonna say. But we'll move on to Seer of Stolen Sight. Now I know that these aren't the best looking cards in the world so far. We'll definitely get there. We usually start spoiler videos with like not the best cards and work our way up. We'll definitely have that effect in this video. Seer is 3 mana, 2 and a black for a 2/3 Phyrexian Warlock with Menace. Whenever one or more artifacts and or creatures you control are put into a graveyard from the battlefield, Surveil 1's coming back. Thanks for the follow, bud. Appreciate you. Is it canon? But yeah, Surveil is kind of evergreenish. I think they call it deciduous, if I'm not mistaken. It pops up every now and again, and it's a cool ability. We already have, what is it, Sanguine Spy? I forget what it's called. We have a 3 mana, 2/3 Aristocrats thing in Standard that surveils already, I'm pretty sure. And it sees like 0 play. So maybe some kind of Aristocrats deck, if there is one in Limited. And maybe the odd like Commander budget deck that wants to do Aristocrat stuff, but also do Graveyard stuff, which a lot of Aristocrats decks do. So Surveil's a cool ability in those decks. Wouldn't be surprised if it popped up from time to time. But not like too impressive, you know. Phyrexia Pegasus. This is Phyrexian Pegasus. This is the 3 mana 2/2 flyer in the set that gives another thing flying when it attacks. There's one in every other set. That's the card. Windrake. 3 mana 2/2 flyer, Phyrexian Pegasus. When it attacks, another attacking creature without flying gets the flying. So you've read it. You've read that card a lot. It's fine. Zephyr Winder? Winder. Even though it's flying, so like maybe it's Winder. This is 2 mana. 1 and a blue for a 2/1 elemental with flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, untap up to 1 target creature. This is actually also, I believe, a card that has existed before, so it's not that big of a deal. But in Limited, you'll take a 2 mana 2/1 flyer with juice, you know? I mean, it's got upside, sure. Seedpod Caretaker. We are almost done with garbage. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 2/2 Phyrexian Cleric. When an ETBs, choose 1, put a +1/+1 counter on target artifact or creature you control, or transform target incubator token you control. What is that, Dave? Okay, this I can probably go ahead and tell you about. There are various cards in this set that have incubate and then a number. Okay, so a card will have incubate 2 or incubate 3. All right, an incubation token or an incubate token is basically just a little. It's a little token, just an artifact. It's just an artifact is all it is, and it has 2 mana, 2 mana. Transform this thing. Transform this artifact. The other side is a Phyrexian. It's the first double-sided token. It's a big deal. It's the first double-sided token. The other side is a 0/0 creature, but it gets a number of +1/+1 counters equal to its incubate value or whatever, you know what I mean? So if you incubate 2, then you can pay 2 mana to transform that artifact into a 2/2. incubate 3, pay 2 mana, transform it into a 3/3. So that's kind of neat. With this guy, you don't have to pay the 2 mana, basically, to transform an incubator token. I think it's a cool little limited thing, and it's probably going to show up in standard on a card or 2. This also plays into the +1/+1 counter, like, sub-theme in this set, so could be an important little uncommon for multiple decks in limited. Up next, let's look at Essence of Orthodoxy. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 white for a 3/3 flyer. And when it or another Phyrexian enters the battlefield under your control, incubate 2. I was just talking about this. So 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer. Not great. But it automatically incubates 2 when it ETBs. Not a bad ETB trigger, right? That's not bad. So you're kind of getting 5 power, but that's for 7 mana instead of 5 mana. That's worse, but you're supposed to get more value out of other Phyrexians entering the battlefield. So maybe, possibly, but like super doubtful. Incredibly doubtful, you know. Here's what I'm going to do. What are we, a few minutes in? I'm going to continue zooming this until someone could effectively read it. That's probably good right there, right? Have to pull down the ads? Yeah, there you go. I think we found the exact correct spot. There we go. Now, let's go back. I think it could be decent limited, by the way, obviously. Oh, but then it does this. So there's just no way to do spoilers correctly. Oh, I guess that's fine. That's fine, because then I can go to Referee Squad and do that. Cool. Yeah, it's about perfect. So, Referee Squad is 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a homunculus. I love seeing a homunculus. It's a 2/2 with Convoke. It has Vigilance, and when it ETBs, you tap a creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Another deciduous mechanic. Apparently, they're just doing stuns, stun counters and sets. This is really nifty, dude. Like, you are supposed to, I should tell you this, as a person whose job it is to evaluate cards, I should tell you that the trap with Convoke is doing the exact thing that I did earlier, okay? Where I said, oh, that demon is a 3 mana 7/6. No, it's not. It isn't. That's a trap. You shouldn't usually do that. And you shouldn't call this a 1 mana 2/2 Vigilance with an ETB trigger that gives you good tempo. You shouldn't do that. Because first of all, it doesn't give you good tempo. I don't want to talk too long about this card. I just think it's neat. I don't think it's like super amazing, but I think it's neat. But I think that Frostlinks, yeah, kind of basically a Frostlinks. But a Frostlinks that can be tapped that can be cast for cheaper, you know, which is great. In limited, Frostlinks is a good card, so that's not bad. So you're not, I keep making noises. I'm sorry. I've been explicitly told not to do that. But anyway, I will say that anytime you get a discount on this, it's pretty good. If you do play it for 1 mana, it's pretty good, but it might not happen as often as you think. And what I was getting at a second ago, if you play it for 1 mana, you're probably not getting tempo. You're getting tempo because you tap a guy and put a stun counter on. That's awesome, right? But you'd have to tap 2 of your guys. So they can't attack that turn, right? Like, how much tempo are you getting, right? Like, is the tempo you're losing worth the tempo you're generating? So I'm not too sure. It does have Vigilance. That means it can attack and then post-combat tap to cast more copies of Referee Squad. So I think the card's really cool, and I like the Strixhaven callback. One thing that's cool about this set, by the way, just a quick lore thing, is that this is kind of like a core set in a way, right? The last couple of core sets that did like Magic Origins and stuff, but even after that, there were core sets that they pulled from a bunch of different planes, right? Like all planes are fair game for recent core sets, right? And that's a cool thing that they did. Well, this isn't a core set, but it is a summer set. It replaces the core set, right? And they're dipping into a bunch of different planes because they can do that. They have found a creative reason to be able to dip into every plane because Phyrexians are invading all the planes. So I think it's just a really cool, like they found a lore reason to be able to like pull from different planes. I think it's cool. It's good. I like Strixhaven, man. Screw the haters. I thought Strixhaven was a cool set. Axgard Artisan is up next. This is 2 mana, 1 and a red for a 2/1 Dwarf Artificer. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Artisan for the first time each turn, create a treasure token. I actually kind of dig this a good bit. I don't know how you're going to be putting +1/+1 counters on it. Like, maybe, here's a deal. Kumana faces Kakazan, right, on turn 1. Turn 2, this guy, he's a 3/2, get a treasure token, happy feet, wombo combo. That seems like okay. It seems downright okay, but is it better than other 2-drop options? I'm not too sure. Maybe you put a counter on it with Thundering Raiju and you get a treasure token. These are good things. Ain't bad, man. Wizards of the Pine, thanks for the 13 months. That's a long time. I appreciate it, dude. But yeah, I don't hate this. Yeah, I like the card. Very cool. Yeah. Cast another Kimano on turn 2. Exactly. You can play 1-drop. That's sick. You cast another Kimano, and then next turn you put a +1 counter on another one that you play, and you get another treasure token. It could work, dude. I love cool little cards like that. Bread and butter of the game, dude. Heart and soul of the game. Interdisciplinary Mascot is next. This is 8 mana, but again, I think anytime you see a card that costs 14 mana in the set, it probably has Convoke. This one does. It's a 5/5 with Convoke and Ward 3. When Mascot enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one in your hand, rest of the bottom on your lap. What? It's a 5. So it's an 8 mana, sort of. 5/5, Ward 3 that impulses when it ETBs. Pretty good. Like, that's okay. But even if you have 4 creatures in play, this still costs 4 mana. So it's a lot of setup. It's a ton of setup. If you have 3 creatures in play, it costs 5. That's reasonable, right? It's reasonable on turn 5 to have 3 creatures in play, isn't it? And is this good enough on turn 5? We have a 5 mana, 5/5 flying ward something in Sphinx of Clear Skies right now, and it can draw cards too, but it doesn't do it on ETB. The fact that this does this on ETB is like a huge deal. Replaces itself with the best card from the top 4. Pretty good. Oh, and by the way, obviously, I should say this. If you cast this for 2 mana, it's broken, right? But it's not like Delve. Like with Delve, it's easy to get 6 cards in your graveyard and like cast Dig Through Time. This is not Dig Through Time on legs or anything. It just isn't that. Like, it's so much harder to get 6 dudes in play. So, and again, there's the win more argument. Like, oh, I have 6 creatures in play. I'm winning the game already, like most of the time. So like, how necessary even is this? I think it's cool though. I think it's awesome. Shane's birthday tweet. Appreciate you for the 30 months, my man. It's awesome. But yeah, it's good, but I don't know if it actually shows up. I think it's priced exactly correctly to not show up. You know what I mean? Up next is Injector Crocodile. This card is normal. It's 6 mana, 4 and 2 black for a 5/5 Phyrexian Crocodile. It's a cool creature type. And when it dies, you incubate 3. It also has Swamp Cycling. They're bringing back basic land cycling, kid. It's not even basic land cycling. You're searching for a swamp card, so you can go get Zayator's Proving Ground or Rafine's Tower if you swamp cycle this, which is just like kind of gross that they're introducing, land cycling back into a format that has those cards. Pretty cool. It costs 5 mana to draw a card, doesn't it? Right. So swamp cycle for Zayator's and cycle it. Could happen. But even when this dies, you basically get a 3/3. I mean, you have to pay 2 more mana, but you paid 6 mana for this. You got it laying around. So, 6 mana, 5/5. When it dies, get a 3/3, or you can cycle it. Like, okay, that's cool and limited, but I don't think this sees any play in standard. But this basic land cycling is kind of dangerous in this format. When you see cards with it in this set, you got to evaluate them accordingly. But let's look at Terror of Tawashi. This card's just cool. I don't know how good the card is. Card's cool. It's 4 mana, 2 and 2 black for a 4/3 Phyrexian Ogre with Death Touch. When it attacks, you may pay 3 and a black. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a Phyrexian in addition to its other types for flavor. So this has to attack. Okay, so that means it's probably not good. This probably isn't very good. And even if you could give it haste, you'd have to pay like 8 mana to make it do the thing. So there's not a whole lot of spots where this is incredible. There's better black 4-drops, children. There's just better black 4s. Phyrexian Obliterator. This would have to be disgusting to see play as a black 4-drop in a standard with some of the cards we have. And it has to attack to get any value whatsoever. And I don't think it's very good. I don't. I think it's kind of bait. I do. But we'll see a card a little bit later. If you want to reanimate stuff, you'll have a card. You'll have a card. Zephyr Winder is next. I love this little guy, man. 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 3/3 human knight. Whenever another knight enters the battlefield under your control, Zephyr Winder gets +1/+1 and gains vigilance until end of turn. A 3 mana 3/3 human knight, both good creature types. It could go up to 4/4 and get like anti-wandering emperor, the sort of wandering emperor armor, which I think is cool. But this dude doesn't see any play in standard, like whatsoever. I'm not saying that. I just like this guy because he's a Zephyr Knight, and I love the whole Knights of Zephyr thing so much. Like the white and red knights in like Mirage Block and stuff. Like they're all so cool, and this is just a really sick cut, like callback for anybody that's been playing as long as me. I like the dude is cool. The dude is cool. If you have a Commander Knights deck, like sure. But up next, oh boy, Ciroc and Dragon, Goreclaw. We're getting into the goods, ladies and gentlemen, with Jeremy Piven. It was a movie. Ciroc and Goreclaw is 6 mana, 4 and 2 green for a 6/5 legendary human bear. It's a man bear pig with trample. Other creatures you control has trample. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. And remember that it also has trample too. This is gross. 6 mana is like a lot of mana. That's the big drawback to this. But like, holy mackerel. You know what I'm saying? Woo! That's a big boy. If nothing else, man. It's got a sweet little global ability on it. It's got trample itself. It could have just said creatures you control have trample, but they decided to convolute it as much as possible. And it's got, dude, creatures you control +1/+1 haste, like haste. It's so sick. It's so good. So you just got to remember it can be taken down by Infernal Grasp and Lay Down Arms and all that. So, 6 mana creatures in this format have to be like disgusting. And like this, I'd probably seriously rather play like Alvabruck Caretaker than this. I just think that's a cooler card. But all your dudes gain haste is pretty gross. So it does say non-token. That might hurt it a little bit, but like not enough to count. You know what I'm saying? So trample and haste that's good. That's pretty good. But I think, Defiler of Vigor is a mana less than this, and it's probably just like better, so, but why not? But Porque no les dos. You know what I'm saying? So, let's look at Ortheon. This is a frustratingly fixed Fable of the Mirror Breaker. If I remember my read on it correctly. Because like I said at the top of the stream, I've read all these cards precisely one time before this stream. This is 4 mana, 3 in a red for a 3/3 legendary human soldier. You can pay 1 in a red and tap it. Stop me if you've heard this. Create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Ouch. Activate only as a sorcery. Okay. You can also, if you're just going bananas, you can pay 9 mana, 6 and 3 red and tap it to create 5 tokens that are copies of another target creature you control. They gain haste, sack them, blah, 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 all the stuff. Activate only as a sorcery. It's the same line of text, only you get 5 copies and you win the game. So this doesn't say non-legendary. I think that's kind of something. That's something, But this very much reminds me of Reflection. Good bits. It can only be activated as a sorcery. It can't target itself. It specifically says another target creature. So, it's legendary. So it's got multiple ways that keep itself from copying itself during your opponent's end step like 1,000 times. And just making like 8 copies of it, swing with them. That's a trick you can do with Fable that you can't do with this. It's also 4 mana instead of 3. It doesn't make a 2/2 that ramps. It's just like it's a much worse card. That doesn't mean that it's not going to see play, especially after rotation when Fable's no longer a thing. This could see some play. But it could even see play while Fable's in the format, in the standard, I was going to say. While Fable's in the standard, this could see play as just, redundancy with Fable, because Fable's such a good effect in certain decks. This still copies Blood Tithe Harvester. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? It copies the Goblin from Fable. So, like, why not? I don't think the card is trash, but when you read Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and then the next card you read, the next Magic card you read is this, you're like, this is worse. But Fable doesn't have this like super over the top I win the game ability. I wish this could copy any number of creatures you control, but it can only copy one, which is, Lamesville, but like it doesn't, I don't think it's bad. It's got like an ultimate, It's kind of cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, Crag Smasher Yeti. This is a normal card too. This is 6 mana. Oh, but it's got backup. This is our first backup card, guys. Okay. Crag Smasher is 6 mana, 4 and 2 red for a 4/2 Yeti with Mountain Cycling too. Remember? It's kind of good. It's got Trample. It's also got backup too. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature because it's backup 2 in this case. If that's another creature, and not this one, basically, it gains the following ability until end of turn. But in this case, let's say you play Smasher Yeti. You back it up, and you put the counters, I'm going to be doing that too much. You put the counters on it. All right. So you just paid, it's Crawworm, you just paid 6 mana for a 6/4 with Trample. Crawworm doesn't have Trample. Strictly better Crawworm. Well, look where we are now. But not as good as Colossal Dreadmaw still. So that's cute. But yeah, if you put the counters on it, 6/4 Trample. Now, if you put the counters on something else, okay, you got yourself a dude that's 2 power bigger and now has Trample until end of turn. That is actually a really neat ability. It's not too complicated. It's fairly easy to understand. It's intuitive. I think that it's like really impactful on a lot of game states, especially in colors like this. It's, combat colors like red and white. I think it's probably just phenomenal in. So this is very much a limited common that will be a 23rd card. It's not going to make it into every deck or anything, but I do think that backup is a cool ability, and we'll see it on a couple other cards that make the card look way better, or the ability. Now let's look. Oh, is my head too big? I bet my head is too big for this. Yeah, it's just far too large. All right, so let's shrink it up. All right, look at that. So let's look at Invasion of Dominaria next. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a battle. This battle is a siege. Okay, so as a siege enters, not a battle, as a siege enters, choose an opponent to protect it. You and other players can attack it. When it's defeated, exile it and then cast it transformed. Now, when Invasion enters the battlefield, the caster of the spell gains 4 life and draws a card. Okay. When it flips over, we'll talk about how to do that in a second. It's a 4/4 flying vigilance. You go Sarah Angel if you're able to flip this over. How the hell do I flip it over? Okay. You attack it like a planeswalker. Really, you attack it like a player. But this reminds me of a planeswalker. It's been brought up that this is the first permanent that you control that you also get to attack. Don't confuse controller and protector. You control a battle or a siege. Not a battle, Dev. A siege is a kind of battle, meaning that there will be other kinds of battles that don't work this way because it just has to be as complicated as possible when they introduce a new card type. Anyway, slight rant there, but yeah, basically you'll play this. It'll go to your opponent's side of the table, but you control it, right? You will attack into this. So in that way, it works like a planeswalker. This kind of has 5 life, So if you can take all 5 life away from this by attacking it, then you transform it and you get it on your side of the table as a 4/4 flying vigilance. I can't waste too much time sighing. Here's the perspective I'm going to bring on this, okay? I just taught or started really teaching Brittany how to play Magic after we've been together for 14 years. She's avoided it like the plague. And a couple of weeks ago, we started playing games of Magic. You know, she's played like 10 or 12 games of Magic at this point. She's got the basic mechanics down, you know, but it is sometimes difficult to teach any new player how to play Magic because they're like, oh, when do I get to play these cards? What does enchantment mean? How is that different than instant? You know, like, what does attacking mean? Oh, I'm going to play this instant. They just put it down on the table and like attack with it. And like all new players do that, you know, because like it's the most complex game in the world. And I can prove that. Most complex spelling game in the world without fat fingering it. Hardest. Magic the Gathering is officially the world's most complex. Magic the Gathering is officially the world's most complex game. An article from 4 years ago. 4 years ago, Magic was already the world's most complex game. And they've introduced a bunch of new mechanics and cards since then, right? Only gotten more intricate and complex. So from the point of view of someone who is A, teaching someone how to play Magic, and B, the point of view of someone learning to play Magic, geez, this is all I'll say. I was explaining this to Brittany as best I could because we actually saw our first battle yesterday. We've known what battles did since yesterday. And I was explaining it to Brittany and she was like, huh? You know what I mean? Because like how it's so much, you know, and like you teach someone to play Magic, and one of the first things, because combat is important, so you teach them like, oh, you only attack the player directly, you can't attack creatures, you attack the player directly. And then you introduce planeswalkers and you're like, well, you can attack these like they're a player, you still can't attack creatures. Oh, what if they make tokens? Can I attack? But they made the token, so no, you can't attack the token, you can only attack me or the planeswalker. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, then it starts making sense. And now this comes along. You're like, okay, so you can't attack my creatures, but you can attack me, and you can attack planeswalkers, and you can attack battles, and it's like FFS, dude. Like it's just another card type, and we knew that there was going to be another card type. I'm not like whinging about the existence of another card type. And I know that, especially to entrenched Magic players, this isn't very hard to understand. I'm not complaining that it's not hard to understand, but I am complaining that it's not intuitive. Those are different things. You can understand something with, a little bit of application. Once you play against the card, or once you really thoroughly read the card as someone who understands Magic language, because to most people this is gobbledygook, so once you really put together an understanding of Magic language, you can understand this with some reading and stuff. It's not too hard or anything, but intuitiveness, that's different, right? The ability to just kind of understand something and pick it up really quick, that's different, and these cards are not intuitive. And if they were going to add a new card type to the game that they plan on like being a thing for a while, then, it will be a thing, because again, the battles have types, and it's already been said that every battle in this set is a siege, but in the future, there's going to be different types of battles. So how do those work? Magnets, you know what I mean? So they introduced those battles. That's going to be a lot. It's like, oh, you can, because it's probably just going to be battles that you control and are on your side of the table, and your opponent attacks into them, right? That's probably just what the other kind of battles are going to be. It's just battles that work like this, but the other way around. But even that's like hard. Okay, so you're teaching someone how to play, or you're on a commander table with someone that like isn't super into new cards and stuff. They've never seen this before, and you have to explain it to them, and you're like, okay, so I have these two kinds of cards in my deck. They're both battles, but this one I play, but I give it to you, and then we attack it, and you have to protect it with your creatures. But this one I play, and you have to attack into it. It's like, geez, Louise, macaroni and cheese. Like, it's just I can't spend too long on how I feel about these, but again, I want to hammer home that this is mostly just laser focused on the point of view of someone learning to play and the point of view of someone teaching someone how to play, which is only 10% of Magic players. It's probably more than that, but I think it's a lot. I don't know that I love it. I do think this will slow certain games down significantly. So So there's that, and there's that. That's okay. I'm kind of okay with that. You know, I don't think it's like the end of aggro or anything like that. But this card might be. I mean, we haven't even talked about the card, so I should at least bring up that 3 mana for a drawn card in 4 life is like not terrible. Like if you never flip this over, like game 4 life draw card, you know, sure. Don't mind if I do. You know, it's not the best thing in the world though. Usually you'd rather play a threat than gain 4 life draw card. And in this format, we have the 3 mana thing that's instant speed, gain a life for each card in your hand, draw a card. You know, that's just better than this in most cases because it's instant speed. So, but that card doesn't give you a 4/4 flying vigilance. So, you know, cool. This definitely looks like a slow limited environment if nothing else, doesn't it? But we gotta keep looking at cards because I just cannot spend all day yelling about battles. I don't hate them. That's what I really want to hammer home here, dude. Drive in is that I don't know that I hate these as a card type. I'm still kind of marinating on it. You know what I mean? I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think it's an interesting wrinkle to gameplay and it's fun. It adds a new thing. I don't hate it. I don't hate that about them, but it's just, ugh. Counterpoint. Ugh. Not the best argument in the world. You know what I mean? But I've been playing Magic for 30 years, and they put out new mechanics in every set. And after a while, it's just like your brain gets fried. I know that it's easy to understand battles, really. But the first time I saw one, I had to read it 4 times to be like, oh, okay, so this is exactly how it works. Okay. You know what I mean? That's a lot for someone that's been speaking this language for 3/4 of his life. You know? Let's look at Grafted Butcher because Phyrexians just get a better lord than everybody else. This is 2 mana, 1 and a black for a 2/2 Phyrexian Samurai. Cool creature type. When Butcher enters the battlefield, Phyrexians you control gain menace until end of turn. Other Phyrexians you control also get +1/+1. Come on. And if it needed more text, it's got it. You can pay 3 and a black and sacrifice an artifact or creature to return Butcher from your graveyard to the battlefield. But I guess it's fair because you can only activate it as a sorcery. Come on, man. That's such a ridiculous lord, isn't it? Most lords these days used to be lords are 3 mana, all your guys of a creature type get +1/+1. But nowadays, it's super common to see like uncommon lord. Super common to see uncommon lord. A weird sentence. Magic talk, but that's 2 mana. All your creatures of a certain type get +1/+1, and like it's a 2/2. You know what I mean? Other creatures of a certain type get +1/+1. And like when that started happening in, I don't know, Ixalan or something, you know, I was impressed by those. But this actually has like 2 lord abilities. If you draw it late, it's just like disgusting. You just get to like swing through. All your dudes get, you know, +1/+1 and menace that turn. Your opponent never saw it coming. It's just Persona 5. That's good. That's a very good lord. Most lords have like decent late game relevance because they boost like 4 dude stats at the same time. But like this has even more. This just lets you alpha like out of nowhere. It's so gross. And then if your opponent can kill it without exiling it, they still have to like worry about you sacrificing a blood token or a treasure token or like some inconsequential thing, you know, or almost inconsequential. And just getting this guy back. This is so gross, dude. It's so gross. It's a lord that does 2 lordy things and then also is always on the battlefield. That's pretty good. So, lord, yes, 6/6 obliterator. Yeah, Shelly's a 5/6 now, baby. Watch out. This could be like the 2 drop in mono black. It really could. Because like Phyrexian Flesh Gorger on 3, you got 4/4 Flesh Gorger with menace and lifelink. Get out of here. Yikes. You know. But let's look. Yeah, finally a reason to play like Sheoldred, right? Let's look next at what is actually one of my favorite cards of the day, you guys. This is Chrome Host Seed Shark. This is 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 2/4 Phyrexian Shark with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value. Create an incubator token with X +1/+1 counters on it, and 2, transform this artifact. It transforms into a 0/0, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Just in case you hadn't heard the reminder text yet, I'll read half of it. But anyway, I love this. This is great. It's a sick little card. It can't be killed by lightning strike and it can't be killed by cut down. I'm in. You know, it can be killed by Infernal Grasp and go for the throat. Whatever. There's fair stuff, but there's removal spells that will just like otherwise completely body this, that it doesn't die to because of that 2/4 stat line. And honestly, you guys, let me know if I'm off base here. 3 mana 2/4 flyer in standard stats. Like, it's not amazing. It's not amazing, you know, but in a lot of cases, I would seriously rather have a 2/4 flyer than a 3/3 flyer. No joke. Like, definitely. You know, so it doesn't die to a braid. That's good, dude. And like, if you cast a single non-creature spell, you get value. And like, it's not hard, you know, you play it on 4 maybe. Although I think you could like confidently play this on 3 against some opponents and be fine, you know, and be okay with that. But, you know, if you cast it on 4 with a mana up, you could like Fading Hope something and make an Incubator token, or like Play with Fire something, make an Incubator token. I think that's actually kind of sick. So like, I'm close to saying they made this card playable with the stat line. But, and if you get, I will say this is the one thing, the card steps on its own feet, right? Because like, you want to cast instants and sorceries, but you also want to have mana to transform the incubators. So like, that's lame. But that's like the only lame thing about the card. The card is actually kind of cool. Yeah, counter magic will be its best friend. Yeah, poor man's Shark Typhoon. It's a fake Shark Typhoon. I was gonna get there. It's kind of a fake Shark Typhoon. But even a fake Shark Typhoon is like, you know, balling. I'm okay with this. I love that it's a shark too. It's just, I'm always into that. But yeah, man, I'm going to play with this guy. It's cool. And you're right about counter magic, by the way. You can just bury opponents in a hole. I will say in a deck with counter magic, you probably want Haughty Jin and stuff. Just probably better, but poor Canelistos again. But it would be kind of memeish to play like a Dimir control deck with lots of go for the throats and removal and stuff, but also counter magic. Get this guy out. Protect him with counter magic or counter your opponent's big stuff and put out incubator tokens. It'd be cute. A cool little deck. Oh, this guy's awesome, guys. Let's look at Voldaren Thrillseeker next. I expect things from Thrillseeker. This is 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 1/1 vampire warrior with backup 2. Remember, when this creature enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. If it's another creature, it gains the following ability until end of turn. So Voldaren Thrillseeker has 1, sacrifice this creature. It deals damage equal to its power to any target. This card is gross. It puts 2 +1/+1 counters on a thing when it ETBs. Doesn't have to be it, but it could be it. It totally could. If this is your only creature and you have at least 4 mana, it's 4 mana for a lightning bolt. Okay, but you'll take that off the top of your library, right? It's not quite haste, but in a lot of situations, it's better than haste, right? Because you don't have to attack, you don't have to worry about getting blocked. It's just the last 3 damage off the top of your library. It's another card that does that. But if it gives it to a different creature, then suddenly that thing can get in for combat damage, much more combat damage. +2/+2 is a pretty big boost. So, you know, gets through for more combat damage. And then if you have an extra mana laying around, you can sack it after it deals combat damage. And like, it's possible that you just deal like 8 damage in a turn, like very easily this way, more or less out of nowhere. So I think this card is actually very gross. Goes perhaps in mono red. They're going to be loath to give up their mechanized warfares, reckless Stormseekers, squeeze and stuff. So it might have to wait on rotation. Like it could, but I do think this card will be playable at some point. I think it might be playable right now. Like seriously, imagine even later in the game, like let's say you've already gone Raiju. You know what I mean? Somehow your opponent survived the Raiju swing. They're dying to this. One way or the other, they're dying to this. You play this off the top and immediately pop them for 3 and they probably die to that. But just in case they don't, Raiju swings again with an additional +2, 2 +1/+1 counters. Or maybe you get to deal more damage with your Raiju because you put the counters on something. You have more modified creatures that way, So Raiju gets to deal more damage. And if you have mana laying around again, you get to sacrifice the Raiju or whatever you put the counters on, plus the Raiju damage, plus the extra counter from Raiju, plus the Raiju combat damage. It can get very sick. Just off the top of your library, just out of nowhere, if you have even one other creature. But if you don't have even one other creature, lightning bolt off the top. Let's go. Don't even have to attack. Don't have to expose yourself to a wandering emperor. Just off the top, lightning bolt. This is very good. I honestly think this is very, very, very good. I don't know if it's a sleeper yet. I haven't heard really anybody talk about the cards today. I haven't had enough time to really get into the discourse. But so I don't know what people are saying about this. But I think this card is intensely good and has the right creature type too. If you still want to build vampires before it leaves the format, 3-drop vampire looking good. So it's another thing about this set is that it allows them to seed creature types that are already in standard, need a little bit of help because they're going to all the planes, you know. But let's look at Baral and Karisev. Holy crap. This is just a cool grouping of people. I just really like Karisev. But it's 3 mana, 1, a blue, and a red for a 2/4 legendary human with first strike and menace. Again, the stat line, guys. 3 mana, 2/4 first strike vigilant or first strike menace. Kind of fine. You know, whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, you may cast a spell with lesser mana value that shares a card type with it from your hand without paying its mana cost. Now, if you don't do that, create First Mate Ragavan, a legendary 2/1 red monkey pirate creature token that gains haste till end of turn. Let's go. So this is not just one of those like 2 character team ups. No, not at all. They crammed 3 important characters onto. I know that Ragavan follows Kari around and stuff, but yeah, you just get Ragavan. This card is also kind of sick. It reads like an alchemy card. Yeah, menacing is it, right? I guess it's because of Kari, because she's red. This is good, right? Am I wrong? Again, it doesn't die to cut down. It doesn't die to lightning strike. These are important things. It doesn't die to a braid. All those things are worth noting. But again, if you cast this on 4, you get to play with fire and then, you know, either cast, well, I guess you have to cast it on 5. I thought it was lesser or equal. That would be even better, obviously, but it's lesser. So if you play it on 5, you can go 2-drop spell, like a braid or something, into 1-drop spell, like Fading Hope or Play with Fire. Like, that's pretty good, you know. Does this only happen on your turn? Whenever you cast it, each turn. Oh my God. So if you counter your opponent's spell with a 3-mana counter spell, you can also cast Free a Braid. It seems good to me. But again, if you don't do all that, like let's say you do play this on 4, you play it on 4 and you Fading Hope something and you've affected the board state and you've created 4 power and 2 of it has haste and the other 2 has first strike and menace. Do you understand what you've done on turn 4? Your opponent. Okay. So let's say you're on the play. Your opponent on their turn 3 plays Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And then on your turn 4, you play a land and go Baral and Karisev, Fading Hope the token, make a Ragavan, get in. Like, and you still have a 2/4 first strike up to block. Like, let's go, dude. Seems good to me. Seems okay. So that's all right, dog. Seriously. That's a fine Magic card, isn't it? So let's move on to... Look at this group of people. Rankle and Torbran. It's cool. This is Raktos. It's 1, 2 black, 2 red for a 3/4 legendary fairy dwarf with flying, first strike, and haste. So let's break that down. 5 mana, 3/4 flying, first strike, haste. Might be all right. Whenever Rankle and Torbran deals combat damage to a player or battle, choose any number. Each player creates a treasure token. Each player sacrifices a creature, and if a source would deal damage to a player or battle this turn, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. Now this is weird because it has dealt combat damage, right? So it deals the combat damage, and then the trigger goes on the stack when it deals combat damage. But I assume that this applies to combat damage. It absolutely must. And that's weird that the rules work that way, but they have to. They have to. You know. Yeah, that's true. It has first strike. It does have first strike. How did I miss that? First strike is the ability I keep missing on the card. I keep thinking like 5-mana 3/4 flying haste is not good, but 5-mana 3/4 flying first strike haste, we might be talking. But at that mana cost, the things that are going to be blocking it probably don't care about the first strike that much. But I will say, this is one of those things. It has haste, very difficult to block the turn it comes out. And if they can block it, they probably don't have like a 5/5 flyer, you know what I mean? A 2/2 flyer or something like that. So if they can block it, the thing dies. But most, if Rankle, master of pranks himself, has taught me anything, it's that most of the time you can get away on turn 4 with connecting with a 3/3 flying haste. Can you get away with it as much on turn 5? Not as much. But if this connects, it does so much. You can choose all of these, by the way. You can choose every single one of these, which I think is interesting. Each player sacks a creature is also very good. It's like the best ability on Rankle, the OG Rankle. So I don't know how much I actually expect from this. I think 5 mana is a lot, but I don't hate it. It has like real relevance the turn it enters the battlefield, like a lot of relevance the turn it ETBs. You can alpha with it, which is good. You can generate mana with it, which is awesome. You can affect the board state. That's awesome. So I think it's a pretty solid card. I do. But, at 5-drop in Raktos, you're looking at, Invoke Despair. So how many 5-drops you playing? I'm not sure. Yeah, not drawing cards like the original Rankle does kind of hurt. Let's look at Invasion of Tarkir. This is a fancy Scorching Dragonfire. This is 2 mana. 1 and a red for a battle. It's a siege. It has 5 life points, I guess. When Invasion of Tarkir enters the battlefield, reveal any number of dragon cards from your hand. When you do, Invasion of Tarkir deals X+2 damage to any other target, where X is the number of cards revealed this way. X can, of course, be 0. If you're able to attack this all the way down, you get a 4/4 flying trample, and whenever a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage to any target. So that's a cool ability, including itself, by the way. I'm going to hit the cough button real quick. Okay, we're back. So this is cool because it's 2 mana removal. It is sorcery speed, but it's 2 mana removal. I will also say this. Battles do matter just because Atraxa is in the format. So, I'm not sure how playable this is with Atraxa, but Atraxa does get battles when she enters the battlefield. That's another weird sentence, but yeah, since she can pick up battles, like you really have to think about these in that manner. And I'm not sure this one sees play, but it's something we might bring up later. Now, this one in particular is always 2 mana for 2 damage. So it's a removal spell, and that's okay. Like, that's kind of okay, but if you have even 1 dragon in your hand, then becoming a sorcery speed Scorching Dragonfire is still just kind of okay. It's really hard to make this card great, but if you can reveal like 3 dragons and deal 5 to something, then like more power to you. But I just don't think it's going to happen super often. Defiant Thundermaw, on the other hand, is very cool. It's a very, very cool card. This goes in every Dragon Commander deck from now until forever, and there are multiple, very highly played Dragon Commander decks. And so I think it's kind of an important card, and I hate that it's mythic for that reason. It's going to cost some money to put in your Commander deck. But this looks like more of a Commander card than anything else, but it's cool enough that we might build it in Standard if they give us enough, awesome dragons to play along with it, right? I say we, I mean like us on stream, not good Magic players. Zergo and Ojutai is up next. They went wild, just absolutely wild with some of the combinations. But that is Zergo riding an Ojutai. It's 5 mana, 2 Injeskai colors, blue, white, red, for a 4/4 legendary orc dragon with flying and haste, and it has hexproof as long as it ETB'd this turn. Whenever 1 or more dragons you control deal combat damage to a player or battle, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of them in your hand, the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. You may return one of those dragons to its owner's hand. So this is super cute. You can dash this in. It's a 4/4 flying haste hexproof. You get to anticipate when it hits and then pop it back to your hand if you want to. It's a May ability. You don't have to do it. But I think this card is extremely good. I think this is probably in like the top 5 or 6 cards of the day, and I'm tempted to put it in like the top 3 cards of the day. I really am. This card is stupid. It's almost guaranteed to hit. I won't say definitely guaranteed. And for 5 mana, your opponent could have just played a Phyrexian Obliterator. You get brick walled. Like, these things can happen, but they're not going to happen that often. You know what I mean? Most of the time, this is going to come in. It's got hexproof. They can't do diddly squooch about it. It's going to get in with flying. It's going to get in with haste because they didn't know to prepare for it. It's haste. They didn't know you had that, right? So you get in, you get the best card from the top 3. And if they kill your Zergo, like if you don't pop it back to your hand and they kill Zergo and a Jutai on their turn, like, okay, or when it rolls back around to your turn, like you got the value, you got the damage, you got the money, the power, the women, all the, you know what I mean? This looks like a very good card that makes me want to play Jeskai, like D1, seriously. Unfortunately, Sheoldred's Edict is very good. That's true. And this will make Sheoldred's Edict even more playable because this is that playable. I'm not saying that this is definitely going to see all the play in Standard. It's in a color combination we don't have a Triome for. It's 5 mana. That can be a lot, but Flying, Haste, Hexproof, the turn it comes in, is a very silly combination of abilities. I would not be surprised if this was a super real Magic card. At some point. I really think it's one of the better cards of the day. I really do. Monastery Mentor is back, ladies and gentlemen. He's back. This is 3 mana, in case you've never read the card. 2 and a white for a 2/2 human monk with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, get a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess. I cannot wait to play Third Path Iconoclast. Turn 2 Iconoclast. Turn 3 Mentor. Again, we don't have the Triome for it. I'm not sure how good that's going to be. It's going to kill both of them with targeted removal, and then they'll play Sheoldred and laugh, and you'll just be like, oh. Like that. You'll have games like that. Mama said there'd be games like that. But there's also going to be games where you just get to have fun. You just get to have a lot of fun. You play Third Path on 3, and you get some value out of it by casting a spell. You cast Mentor on 4, you get some value out of it casting a spell. And you just, I can't wait. Monastery Mentor is such a sick card. One of my favorite. It's going to be nice to be able to just open one in a pack and immediately throw it into the cube. It's like really one of the best cubable 3-drops, and I just don't have a copy. So everyone that's ever experienced this card either loves it or hates it. There's no in between with this card. But it was very important last time I was in Standard. And I don't know if it'll get there this time, but I have a lot of nostalgic feelings for Monastery Mentor. All right. I should just probably not bother making my head bigger and smaller and stuff. I should probably just stick with it. Let's look at Invasion of Ikoria here. I actually should make my head even smaller. Small head. Do it. Go. All right. Here it is. And then cover up some of this ad because everyone hates ads. I'm sorry about the ads, guys. Except for the ads that appear when you watch my videos, like at the beginning of the videos. I need those for money. But anyway, Invasion of Ikoria is 2 green and an X. For a battle, it's a siege. It has 6 loyalty? Health? I don't know. But when it enters the battlefield, you search your library and or graveyard for a non-human creature with mana value X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle. Really weird slip there. I apologize. But what does it do when it flips over? It becomes Zilortha, Apex of Ikoria. I have never heard of this entity on Ikoria in my life. It's an 8/8 legendary dinosaur with reach. And for each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So all of your non-human guys become Thorn Elementals, which is... Come on. This was Godzilla in the Buy a Box? Zilortha? Was it really? Was it? Really? I didn't think so. Do I not have Godzilla right here? Do I not have Godzilla literally right here in front of me? Hold on. It's Godzilla. Checks out. That's Godzilla. Oh, I guess this is the different version of it. This is Titanoth Rex. This is the uncommon Godzilla. So everyone's telling me Godzilla was the skin of the guy. I just forget things. Standard brain when you like push stuff out. You know what I mean? But yeah, all your dudes basically become Thorn Elementals. So this is this Green Sun Zenith? Green Sun's Zenith MTG. The first result is TCG player. That's fine. Search your library for a green creature card with converted mana cost X or less. Put on the battlefield. Shuffle. And then you also get to shuffle Zenith. So like, this is strictly worse than Green Sun Zenith, right? No, because this can be any creature card so long as it's not a human. So it's not strictly worse. One way or the other. Green Sun Zenith that costs 1 more mana is probably good. Why would that not be good, you know? I guess it costs 9 mana to get a Titan of Industry, and that's like, but stuff like this is so dangerous, especially considering you're going and getting like a huge guy, right? And you can get whatever dude you want. It's not a human. And like, it can have flying, it can have trample, it can have hexproof, whatever, to help it get through for combat damage and actually take this down. And then when it does, you get an 8/8 reach that can just assign combat damage. Like the thing that you went and got with Invasion can then just get through for combat damage even if it's blocked. Like, that seems like strongish. Seems strongish. Can it also search graveyard? Yeah, Green Sun Zenith cannot search graveyard. So there's also that. Yeah, this can also just reanimate something, which is kind of neat. More than a little neat. So yeah, just massive like ramp target thing here. And it might be a little bit win more, but not really. I mean, it puts the thing you need to win the game. You're not winning the game, right? You've got all your mana. You're a ramp deck. You need to win the game because you've got your mana. So, you know, you could argue that the second half of it is win more, but I don't even think that's true. I think that this card is win enough. I do. But maybe, you know, you're not playing 4 of this. You know what I mean? Like, you're playing like 1 or 2 of this. It's not that many copies. It really isn't. I think it's cool, though. I think it's neat. Oh, let's look at Invasion of Ravnica next. This is so... It's very weird, right? Because it's colorless. Ravnica, though. Anyway, this is 5 colorless mana. Well, whatever mana. And it's a siege. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls that isn't exactly 2 colors. And it has 4 health, 4 HP. Oh my god, go away, giant ads. Mythic spoiler. This, well, whatever you got to do to stay in operation. But it transforms into Guild Pact Paragon. This is a 5/5 construct. Whenever you cast a spell that's exactly 2 colors, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a card that's exactly 2 colors from among them. Put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. That's gross, right? That's pretty gross. Huh? You know? Whenever you cast a spell that's 2 colors, look at the top 6 and get another one like it. You know, get another one that's 2 colors, and then you'll cast that one and you'll do it again. And you'll cast that one and you'll do it again. And this doesn't have a once a turn restriction. It doesn't have it only happens on your turn. It's whenever you ever cast a spell ever that's 2 colors. That's cool. That's so cool, man. I think it's sweet. And honestly, it's like an introduction to Annihilation, right? But they don't get to draw the card, and that's not super great. But another thing you could compare it to is Binding the Old Gods. That costs 4 mana. This costs 5, but it's basically always going to blow something up. I mean, what does it not hit? Blood Tithe Harvester? You know, but it basically hits like 98% of like targets in standard. So that's a heck of an ETB. That is. And if you could somehow flicker it, that's cool. You know, it's pretty serious. Oh, here comes the one, guys. This is the one that's going to like make me like battles or maybe hate them. It's yet to be decided, but I'm pretty sure it's going to make me like them. This is Invasion of Tolvada. What plane is Tolvada? I don't know. This is 5 mana, 3 a white and a black. And it's probably one that I should know. It's probably a plane I should know. But 5 mana, 3 an Orzhov for a 5 HP siege. When it enters the battlefield, don't worry. Don't even worry about attacking this siege down. Just listen to this line of text. When Invasion of Silvata enters the battlefield, return target non-battle permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay. And it flips over. If you can attack it down for 5, it turns into the Broken Sky. It's an enchantment. Creature tokens you control get +1/+0 and have lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with life. Cool. That's actually very cool. I like it. I think it's cool. I got no problems with the part of the card. I think it's nice. I love creature factories. I like the anthem. Lifelink is sweet. It's all cool. That's good. Look at this half of the card, though. This is Invoke Justice when Invoke Justice leaves the format. This is Invoke Justice, but any deck can cast it. And I know that most decks, we got 3 color decks casting Invoke Despair right now, right? It's not too hard, but it's super unhard. It's very easy to cast this in just like an Orzhov deck. It's much easier than it is to cast Invoke Justice. And even though it doesn't put counters on everything, and sometimes putting counters on stuff is cool, the real meat of Invoke Justice is put a permanent from your graveyard on the battlefield. Permanent. Kaya. Portal to Phyrexia. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many ridiculous options with this. It's just, oh my God. Yeah, and it's a permanent. So, like, Elesh Norn from the last set will double this. It's pretty sick. Pretty good. But yeah, 5 mana. I mean, 5 mana reanimation spells have gotten so much better. I think at one point they were like, well, Zombify, 4 mana reanimated guy. That's all it says. Zombify is too good for standard. So any 4 mana, reanimation spell has to have a downside. 5 mana removal spells, though, are either normal, just 5 mana reanimated guy, or they get to have upside, and sometimes massive upside. And this is one of those, dude. Not only can you get this enchantment out of it that becomes a creature factory, which is great. That's just really, really good gravy. But this, man, this 5 mana reanimated thing, anything, basically. I mean, non-battle, but like, who cares? Just any permanent type that existed before this set released. Like that. Woo! I'm hanging on, baby. Like I'm playing that card. I am playing that card. Atraxa, like, God. It's gonna be good. Let's look at Invasion of Fiora next. This is 6 mana, 4 and 2 black for a 4 health siege. When it enters the battlefield, choose one or both. Destroy all legendary creatures or destroy all non-legendary creatures, lol. So you can one-sided this, depending. If you're playing against Esper Legends, and this is in your deck, you just one-sided wrath them, depending. And obviously, if you're Esper Legends, hey, you can one-sided wrath them that way too, I guess. But you can also just kill everything. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. But this is actually neat because if you one-sided wrath it, it becomes obviously like much, much more easy to attack it down. So that could play in, and it's only got 4 health, but that's because it costs 6. 6 is so much, but it's a sweeper. It's a sweep for all the dudes. And once it does flip over, you get Marchesa. Hey, Resolute Monarch. This is a 3/6 legendary human noble with menace and death touch. And when it attacks, remove all counters from up to 1 target permanent. Just stab target planeswalker. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you haven't been dealt combat damage since your last turn, you draw a card and lose a life. That's good, man. And it lines up. It lines up in a very interesting way here. Appreciate the subs, Beasley. Thank you, dude. But yeah, it lines up in an interesting way, right? Because if you are able to one-sided wrath this, like let's say again, you are Esper Legends and you choose destroy all non-legendary creatures. That means the same turn you play this, you can probably flip it into Marchesa. Well, if you do that, your opponent doesn't have any creatures. So it's extremely likely that if they do play a creature, if it has haste or whatever, you just block it with your 3/6. I like big butts, can't lie. And that's a big old booty. So like, even if there's a dude left on the other side of the table, you can probably block it, not take combat damage, draw yourself a card. All seems pretty cool. I will say this isn't a May ability. You have to draw the card and lose a life. And this is a 6 mana sweeper. So it's entirely possible you are at 1. And all they have to do is not attack you, right? But that's like a 2% situation. A sweeper that becomes a dude that does all of this. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very good. And obviously Menace and Death Touch is really good together. So again, pretty good. I think this is one of my top 3. Yeah. Of battles. Yeah, I think it's in the top 3 battles. Probably. Almost certainly. Next, we'll look at Transcendent Message. This is a normal card almost compared to the stuff we've been looking
There's
at.
never been a better time to get away. With a great deal on the Hyundai you've always wanted. It's your journey.
Seriously? Are you seriously playing an ad that has sound now? What are you doing? I really should have just like slideshowed this whole thing. I've never seen an ad on Mythic Spoiler play sound. Anyway, let's look at Transcendent Message. This is 4 blue mana and X for an instant with Convoke, and you can draw X cards. That's the whole card. Normal. It's totally normal card. 4 blue mana is a lot, dude. 4 blue mana is a ton. Even if you have like 3 creatures in play, 4 blue mana is so much. However, it's instant speed. So I never ever put draw X cards at instant speed out of contention for playability. Even if a control mage has no creatures in their deck, I guess there's probably better stuff to play than this, but you know, if you do have a few creatures, you got Wandering Emperor, it makes tokens, you know, and something like that. You got Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you got Eternal Wanderer, right? You got all kinds of like walkers that make creatures. So like I could see playing this and then EOT, you know, just drawing like 5. Like the card does look okay to me. And I imagine in Commander, the card is like super sick. So, but oh my goodness, everybody. Oh my goodness. It's the final sword. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for some sword ball? It's the Sword of Once and Future. 3 mana for an artifact. It's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from, guess what? Blue and black. The mirror is the only one that we don't have yet. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, Surveil 2. Then it gets gross. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell will be put into your graveyard, exiled instead. Equip 2. Gross. That's pretty good, man. Pretty good. Oh, yeah, creatures, that's true. On Convoke, creatures can pay colored mana. That's true because they tap for the mana of their color or whatever. Pretty sure that is how it works. There's 1 mana of that creature's color. Yep. 1 mana of that creature's color. So, yeah, you can just tap all of the creatures, tap all the blue dudes and make it work. You can. So 4 blue mana is not as much as I thought. Still, I'll praise ultimately I praise the card and I'll continue to praise it, especially knowing that it's Convoke. You can pay, I forget that you can pay colored mana on Convoke all the time. But let's look at Guardian of Ghirapur next. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 3/3 angel with flying. And when it ETBs, exile up to 1 other target creature or artifact you control. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Where I've heard that before. It's Restoration Angel, but they took off a point of toughness. They sliced off the flash, and consequentially it costs 3 mana instead of 4. This is nowhere near as good as Restoration Angel. The flash on Restoration Angel made a lot of difference. It was a super annoying card, and you always had to fear it during combat steps and EOTs and stuff. This is not that. It at least is not that. But it can exile artifacts and blink them. That's kind of cool. Reset your Bank Buster. It's an angel, so it goes kind of well with Giada, right? 4/4 the turn you play it if you play it the next turn after Giada. And a 3 mana 3/3 flyer is like, you know, basically fine stat line. It's relatively easy to cast in terms of the color requirements. Like, I just have no problem with this. I think that this is a ridiculous enter the battlefield trigger historically. Just an enter the battlefield trigger that lets you repeat other enter the battlefield triggers. That's all like very, very good. This is intensely here's the thing about this value. It's perfectly costed. Everything about this card I feel like is almost perfectly designed and very annoying. Extremely annoying. Things could work in Pioneer Angels. Yeah, too. Especially with how many angels in that deck, if I'm not mistaken, have good ETB triggers. Also, this is a blink effect, which means that it works with Phyrexian creatures. What are they called? The ones from Brothers War? The ones that you can play them for a lower cost and they suck, or you can pay them for way too much mana and they're much better. So, what are they called? It's killing me. But it's really good with prototype. Thank you, chat. See, if I was recording the YouTube video, I would have stopped for a second and looked it up on my phone and went, oh yeah, prototype. But I have chat to aid me, so I appreciate you guys. But yeah, you can blink prototype guys and they come back big, and that's sexy. Nothing wrong with that, dude. We've already seen some ETB triggers that I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't kick out of bed for eating spaghetti or whatever. So. But let's look. Oh my God, it's time, everybody. It's time. Elesh Norn. Just Elesh Norn. This is 4 mana, 2 and 2 white for a 3/5 legendary Phyrexian Praetor with Vigilance. Whenever a source, I want you to really think about this line of text, everybody. Whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1. You can also pay 2 and a white and sacrifice 3 other creatures to exile Elesh, then return to the battlefield transformed, activate only as a sorcery. It becomes the Argent Teachings. On chapter 1, you incubate 2 5 times, and then you just get to transform all your incubator tokens. So on chapter 1, you get 10 power, at least, On chapter 2, if that wasn't enough, creatures you control get +1/+1, gain double strike till end of turn. 20 power, 40 damage altogether here. And then on chapter 3, destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and Phyrexians. Exile, there's more. Exile Argent Teachings, and then return it to your battlefield as Elesh Norn. So ridiculous. Everything the card does is crazy. Like they had to one up Shieldred or make it as powerful as Shieldred, So it's got Vigilance. Elesh Norn has Vigilance, apparently. It's just staple Elesh Norn ability. So it's Wandering Emperor proof. 3/5 is a fine stat line. What number matters more on Shieldred, the 4 or the 5? The 5. Every time. The 5 matters an irritating amount of times on Shieldred. So I think that matters greatly here. Whenever a source, okay, we'll get to it. We'll get to that in a second. Actually, we'll get to this line of text that matters the most in a second. So 3 other creatures is a lot. That's a lot. Okay, but if you have 3 dudes lying around, Ambitious Farmhand, Spirited Companion, Wandering Emperor token, that's easy enough. That's a lot of boards. You sacrifice those guys. Yeah, you came down on some board presence to do it. You immediately get 10 power. You immediately get 5 guys and they start making burgers. And then if that's not enough, the next turn, all those 2/2s become 3/3s and gain double strike. Right? All those 2/2s, 5 2/2s become 3/3s. So that's 15 damage, 30 damage. Am I correct? I think that was the correct number. I think I said 40 earlier. I was wrong. But yeah. Your 5 guys get +1/+1. Yeah, that's correct. And then if that somehow, if for some reason this does not win you the game, the 3rd chapter is destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and your incubator guys and any other Phyrexians you might have laying around. So the 3rd chapter is literally a one-sided wrath that wraths planeswalkers, enchantments, creatures. it's like every chapter on the saga part of it wins the game. Every single chapter on the saga says you win the game. But in case you didn't win if that doesn't win the game, well, how about this? Oh, that didn't work either. How about this? Yeah, that actually does work. Thanks. But if that doesn't work, you get Elesh back again. And mind you, you should probably have some number of incubator guys left over. So when it returns to the battlefield as Elesh Norn after it's already been Argent Teachings, you just sacrifice it again. And then you count down to another, like it's another 2 turns to demolition, right? So all that is on the card, and it's all very good. That's all really, really good. However, the best part of this card, I think, is this line of text. Whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1. Now, 1 might not sound like much, right? But let's say they're attacking with 3 guys. Okay? They attack. Okay. You has Planeswalker. So your opponent attacks with 3 guys. They send 2 of the guys at you. They send 1 of the guys at the Planeswalker. You block 1 of the guys coming at you. You following? You block 1 of them 3 guys. 1 of them that's coming to you. Now, the way combat's going to work here is that your opponent, the creature that blocked, okay? Your opponent's creature is going to run into it, and because your opponent's creature is a source they control, all right, and your creature is a permanent you control, this procs. So it procs on blocks, procs on socks, all right? Procking on blocks is a big deal. Their guy dealt damage to a thing you control. Okay, so at the same time, because that's how combat damage works, it hits me. Their 1 guy I let through hits me in the face, and their 1 guy hits my Planeswalker in the face. Well, that's a permanent I control. My Planeswalker's a permanent I control, so it procs again. All right? And it hit me. 1 of your guys got through and hit me. It procs again. So you have to pay 3 mana right now. Or you take damage. You take a hefty amount of damage. That's a lot of damage. You take 6 damage. You can... Depending on, if I have like Ambitious Farmhand, Wanderer Emperor token, 2, let's say I have 2 Wanderer Emperor tokens, Ambitious Farmhand, and you attack with 3 guys, I block with my 3 guys, and this deals damage to you unless you pay mana. So, and at this point we're at 2, 3, 4 mana, and that's a lot to pay if you still want to play spells on your turn. This is a super annoying ability. This is just incredible. You cannot fathom how intensely annoying this ability is going to be. If it didn't proc on blocks, I wouldn't care so much. But it procs on blocks. But even if it didn't, you know what my problem with Shieldred is? I've said it a million times. My problem with Shieldred is that it punishes you for playing Magic. You have to draw cards in a game of Magic. You need to do that. You do it every turn just by, function of how the game works. It's literally playing Magic to draw cards. And not only that, but when you're trying to beat a Shieldred by drawing more cards, Shieldred hurts you. It sucks, This also punishes you for playing Magic because, hit your opponent. By the way, I haven't said this yet, but this obviously works for like red burn spells, stuff like that. So that's just a nightmare. Play with fire, lightning strike, all that stuff. Just a freaking nightmare for those decks. And they're going to have a hard time taking out a 5 toughness guy. So, whew, and it only costs 4 mana. But Shieldred punishes you by trying to draw into answers for it. This punishes you by trying to race it, right? Like just trying to attack through it, attack into it and through it. And it kind of doesn't let you do that without also spending mana, which sucks. I know 1 mana doesn't seem like much, but like, play against it. Play against it and, have to make the decision where, like, I guess I'll pay 2 mana to not take 4, but I will take 2 damage to this ability. It's It's rough. This is a rough ability. And, I'm paying 2. So instead of being able to double spell this turn, I don't take 4, but I can't cast 2 spells. I have to prioritize which spell is better. And then I also have to take 2 from the ability on top of all that. Like this is taxes, man. This is good. I promise you, this is a ridiculous Magic card. I've talked about it way too long, but that's because it's dumb. It's just like stupidly very good. It's too good. But let's keep on looking here at Glissa Simpson. We got Glissa, Herald of Predation. This is 5 mana. 3, a black and a green for a 3/5 legendary Phyrexian zombie elf. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose yourself one of these 2 things. Or one of these 3 things. You can incubate 2 twice. Or you can transform all incubator tokens you control. Or Phyrexians you control gain first strike and death touch till end of turn. Pretty cool ability. This costs 5 mana. So that looks like a lot, especially for a 3/5. But hey, we just said that extra point of toughness, man. That 5 toughness matters. However, even being 5 mana, I don't hate this. It has real relevance the turn it comes into play. You can not really alpha strike, but give your first strike, your Phyrexians the ability to effectively not be blocked without wreaking havoc, And to transform all incubator tokens is something, right? But the one I'm really interested in here is incubate 2 twice, because even if they kill your Glissa, you still have 4 power on the table. That's pretty good. Also, cool thing about these incubator tokens is, if you incubate twice and your opponent hits Sweeper, right? There's at least that. I think that's self-explanatory what I'm trying to say here. But they also play through Sweepers. Like, I can have an incubator token on the table since like turn 2. And just start playing creatures. My opponent's forced to sweep me, and I still have those incubator tokens. They're artifacts, right? They're not creatures. So that's kind of cool. I just have dudes on the table. It makes sweepers a little worse. And sweepers are already like hamstrung, but not bad. But there are answers to sweepers in the current format. But I like that this kind of puts, 7 power on the table, but not for 5 mana. It puts 7 power on the table for 9 mana, which isn't as good. But being able to just like make these dudes, and then if they kill your Glissa, sure, they killed your one guy, but you have 2 guys to replace the Glissa. And I think that's cool, but I don't know how like actually playable it is, but it might be better than I think it is, especially if you can blink it or just repeat the not blink it, but like, get this ability as often as possible. If this incubates twice into the turn it comes into play, and then sticks around, which it should do because it has 5 toughness. It's pretty easy. But then it sticks around, then incubates 2 again. Like it's really producing a ridiculous amount of value. So, and obviously it synergizes with itself because the next turn it transforms them, and then the next turn first strike, death touch. Like, all that's good. So I like it, but I don't love the mana cost. But I think there's cool stuff about it. Pelucranos Reborn, this is another one of those like just dumbest cards of the day. Just like, how does this exist? You know what I mean? This is 3 mana. 3 green mana. That's all. That's all it costs. 3 green mana for a legendary Hydra. It is a 4/5 reach for 3 mana. You can also pay 6 and then a Phyrexian white mana to transform it. You can only do it as a sorcery. It transforms into Pelucranos Engine of Ruin. Poor Pelucranos. But he looks awesome. It's Skeleton Hydra. Let's go. This is a 6/6 legendary Phyrexian Hydra with reach and lifelink. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Whenever Pelucranos Engine of Ruin or another non-token Hydra you control dies, create it. Or another non-token Hydra. I didn't catch that the first time I read this card, but yeah, when it dies, create a 3/3 green and white Phyrexian Hydra creature token with reach and a 3/3 green and white Phyrexian Hydra creature token with lifelink. Have you seen it? Have you seen her? Tell me, have you seen her? This is Wormcoil Engine. This is just the back half of this is just Wormcoil Engine. So let's recap, students. A 3 mana, 4/5 reach with no tangible downside, I guess, to legendary. And the upside is, once you get later on in the game, in case it's somehow invalidated, you can pay effectively 6 mana. You can pay 7 if you want to, but I'm paying the 2 life when I can. And then you get a 6/6, and who cares if you pay 2 life? You get 6/6 lifelink. I mean, you get an old growth troll with a worse keyword ability and an extra point of toughness on the first half. You get 3 freaking mana for 4/5 reach. And then on the back half, which all it really takes is like getting long enough into the game that Pelucranos didn't kill them. Oh, Pelucranos hadn't killed you yet? Let's try this version of Pelucranos. 6/6 lifelink reach that worm coils when it dies. Like, or another non-token Hydra. So you know what I'm doing. I'm going to play the thing that makes all your creatures in your deck, whatever creature type you want them to be, pick Hydra. And then whenever anything I control dies, I get a 3/3. That's what we're doing. Very mono black magic deck. Very, very janky. Mono black magic. Reference here on the channel. Go check him out. He's a good YouTuber. But this card is just silly, right? Like, come on, man. Come on, dude. That's so good. Somebody in chat did just say, like, I actually don't think this is that good. Like, come on, man. Come on. Just on rates alone, the card is disgusting. Just disgusting. All right, let's look at Realm Breaker here. I think this card is dope. This is the Invasion Tree. We've all heard of Realm Breaker before, right? This is 3 mana, whatever, for a legendary artifact. You can pay 2 and tap it. And listen to this ability. Target opponent mills 3 cards. Put a land from their graveyard onto the battlefield tapped under your control. It gains if this land would leave the battlefield exiled instead of putting it anywhere else. Now that's cool, right? That's just neat. But you can also pay 10, tap, and sacrifice Realm Breaker, the Invasion Tree. Search your library for any number of Praetor cards. Praetor cards, put them onto the battlefield and then shuffle. Good God. 10 mana, dude. We're getting there, too. We're getting there. We can get there, too. It's not hard with, like, Mightstone and Weakstone. It can tap for 2 mana to activate artifacts and stuff. Like, we are doing it, baby. We're going to make this happen, man. Like, the sucky thing about it is it's not like a budget, stupid jank deck. Like, you have to have 4 Elesh Norn, 4 Sheoldred or whatever. I guess you could toolbox it if you wanted to. And just put all the Praetors in there and throw a Jin Gitaxias on the board. God, that's so gross, dude. But I like this first ability. I think the card is obviously very slow. It's 3 mana for a do-nothing on the turn that you play it. Like, it does literally nothing. You could pay 5 mana for this card, theoretically, and immediately activate it. I mean, hell, you could pay 13 mana for the card and activate it, but maybe that's the real challenge. But yeah, you could pay 5 for this and immediately get a land from their yard, and that's kind of good, but it's still not very good. Ramp 1 out of their yard for 5 mana, it's not good. But the fact that it's, technically milling your opponent, which I think is kind of cute in a way, this is better than a millstone. It's just better, just a much better millstone. So there's that. But it's ramp. It's ramp for you. It can be whatever land, so that's cool as well. Just that first ability is very neat. And even though it costs all the mana in the world, does nothing the turn it comes into play probably. And then on turn 4, you have to use half your mana to activate the card. Like, it doesn't look good in most contexts, but I think it's a very cool card. It's super freaking cool, and I like it. I'm allowed to like things. So let's look next at Borboremos and Fibblethip. What a combination of good. Why? I love it, though. I love it. This is 5 mana, 2 in Teamer colors. Haven't heard Teamer in a while, have we? That's a name I've not heard. It's 2, a green, a blue, and a red for a 6/5 legendary Cyclops homunculus. And when it ETBs or attacks, draw a card, then you may discard any number of land cards. When you discard 1 or more cards this way, Borboremos and Fibblethip deal twice that much damage to target creature. Now, you can also, if you feel like it, you can pay 1 in a blue and put B and F into its owner's library 3rd from the top, just like a Fibblethip can do. This is such a neat card, dude. This is such a cool card. Like, you can pitch lands into your yard, right? Doesn't Tezzeret solve that? Ooh, you talking about that last card, Irregular Jackie? Yeah. Tezzeret makes the activation cost of your artifacts cost 2 less the first time you activate one. So you can pay 8 for it. That could work. And yeah, it also makes it free to activate the first ability, so that's cute. Maybe finally a use for Tezzeret. But, boring Forb over here. Just so weird. But the card is kind of good. I mean, 5 mana 6/5 is stats, if nothing else, right? But when it ETBs, you draw a card. Guaranteed. It says you may discard any number of land cards. So it's just guaranteed to definitely draw you a card when it ETBs, no matter what. And then you can discard lands. You don't have to, but if you do, it's removal. So 5 mana, 6/5, draw a card and removal, and it's tough to kill. That's a good creature in my book. That's a pretty good creature. There's tricks with it. Yeah, Slowgurk. Yep, Slowgurk's a good trick. But it's kind of decent in just like a lands deck where you want to pitch lands and then play them back out of your yard with Conduit of Worlds or whatever you're doing, you know. So like that seems kind of neat, but just on its face, in terms of value, it does the 2 best things that a card can do, doesn't it? Right? I mean, it's really the 3, right? It's a body. It is a spell that has a body stapled to it. So that's one thing. It draws a card. That's 2 things. And it removes a creature. That's 3 things. So a Necrotile, kind of, sometimes, that draws a card. And also they must deal with it or they lose the game because it's a 6/5. But they can't deal with it because you can just put it on, 3rd from the top if they try to deal with it. And then you get to play it again and draw another card. It's like, this is pretty good. I actually think this is sick. All these cards cost 5. And like these days, for a card to be good and also cost 5 mana, it has to be slammin' salmon. And like, I think that is pretty close, dude. I'd at least flout that trout. You know what I'm saying? But Stoke the Flames is next. This is a reprint, and it's a very good card. This is 4 mana, 2 and 2 red for an instant with Convoke. Stoke the Flames deals 4 damage to any target. And I have corrected myself. Again, you can just tap 4 guys so long as 2 of them are red and cast the spell for effectively free. In case you've never played against Stoke the Flames, this card is incredible. This card... Wow, we have not yet been through Italy. That's another one of my favorite cards of the day. Stoke the Flames, one of the few reprints along with like Monastery Mentor, a couple of other things that we've seen so far. But this card is boss. This card is relevant. It will see play. Saw play last time, and it had some cool things to go with it. We had the thing that created like 3 goblins for 3 mana or something, and usually you play that with Stoke the Flames. We don't have as much stuff like that this time, but I still think Stoke the Flames is more than playable, dude. This is great, especially in a Wandering Emperor format where you don't know if you can attack, right? You're not sure about attacking. But I guess you still have to tap the guy, You still have to tap guys. But I still think that Stoke is just phenomenal. It's instant speed, so very often, right, you tap your creature's EOT and then attack with them the next turn. It's just... Stoke is good. Also remember that creatures can tap for Convoke the turn they come into play. And that matters with Stoke a lot of the time too. So Convoke the Stoke. That sentence is back in Standard. I love God. Card's going to end a lot of games. Card is going to end a lot of games. But let's look at Quintorius, guys. Quintorius is back and he's better than ever. This, again, freaking 5 mana card, but like, look at this text box, man. This is 3 in Boros colors, red, white, for a 3/5 Elephant Cleric with Vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, exile target non-creature, non-land card from your graveyard. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. That's okay. But you can also pay 1 red, white, tap, sack a spirit. Choose target card exiled with Quintorius. You may cast that card this turn without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, put it on the bottom of its owner's library instead. This can cast anything. It can cast non-creature, non-land cards. So it can cast Planeswalkers for free, no matter how much they cost. It can cast instants and sorceries. It can cast a Portal to Phyrexia or Omniscience, a Magma Opus, like any 12 mana freaking card, this can play. And it does have to wait until your next turn most of the time. At least you can give it haste and have 8 mana, Like, it does have to wait until your next turn to play this, or to play the spell. But in the meantime, it's 5 mana for 6 power on 2 bodies. And that's pretty good. Now, it's at the beginning of your end step, so they can kill it before you get the value. But if they can't kill it the turn that you play it, again, 5 mana, 6 power, 2 bodies, keyword ability, like, that's not bad. If they do kill the Contorious, which they are very incentivized to do, I would assume, then you still leave behind the 3/2. And, like, that's value. That's pretty good value. If you do untap with Contorious, again, 5 toughness creature, so it's got that going for you. If you do untap with Contorious, even if all you're casting is, say, Lightning Strike, that could be more than worth it. You got to come down on a Spirit to do it, right? But again, if all you're doing is casting, 2 or 3 mana removal spellers, that could, again, be very much worth it. So everything, again, from Magma Opus and Portal to Phyrexia, all the way down to Fading Hope, like, could be relevant to recast with this guy. So I honestly don't hate this. I think it's probably going to be a bulk rare, but this is one of those cards that, like, I honestly think it has a chance, dude. I really do. And again, rep Strixhaven. I like Strixhaven. Nobody else does. But let's look at Alabaster Host Sanctifier. What does this do? It's 2 mana, 1 and a white for a 2/2 Phyrexian Cleric with lifelink. That's what the card does. Let's move on to Negate. What does Negate do? It counters a non-creature spell for 2 mana. You know that. This is what the art looks like. It's a Johnny. That's good. Let's look at Elspeth Smite next. Oh, we're almost at Italy, chatter. Elspeth Smite is also normal. This is just 1 white mana for an instant that deals 3 damage to an attacking or blocking creature. If the creature would die this turn, exile it instead. That's actually not a bad card. It's really not a bad card, especially with the exile. Exile Squeeze, Tenacious Underdogs, and all manner of other stuff that you'd really rather not be in their yard. So with Lay Down Arms in the format, I'm not sure that this sees all the play in the world, but it is instant speed. Right, so it's good against Phoenix Chicks, like all manner of mono red stuff, mono black stuff. So I could see it. I really could. It could be a tech little thing, but oh boy, let's look at Italy, everybody. One of my favorite cards of the day. This is mostly because of its front face, but good lord, that back, let's Italy Primal Conqueror is 7 mana, 5 and 2 red for a 7/7 legendary elder dinosaur with trample. And when it ETBs, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. Neat. That seems okay to me, but if that weren't enough, you can pay 9 and then a Phyrexian green mana to transform Italy as a sorcery. Italy Primal Sickness is an 11/11 trample indestructible, and when it deals combat damage to a player, they get that many poison counters. God, come on. Yeah, Blightsteel Dino. That's just such a dumb looking card, like in the best way possible, like the best way imaginable. This is a dumb card. I will say, I think people are getting caught up calling this. This is one card I've seen a little bit of talk about today. I've seen people talk about this being a Timmy card, and it's a trap, it's bait, and all that stuff. It's a scam. I don't think so, man. This doesn't say some of the stuff that would completely murder the card in my eyes, right? It doesn't say if you cast it after it enters the battlefield. So, look, Atraxa is in the format. Kaya is in the format. I mean, there's all manner of good reanimation targets. We just got a thing that reanimates any non-battle permanent for 5 mana. So again, like Portal to Phyrexia and stuff like that. Those cards exist, but I'm looking at Italy as a reanimation target, and I'm seeing a thing that if I reanimate this on turn 4 or 5, or I ramp into it and get it on 4 or something, well then I just get 2 free spells I don't really get to control what they are unless I somehow can scribe something to the top or put something with, there's ways to control it. But in most decks, I'm probably not controlling it so much. And you're not going to just hit like a whiff. You're never going to whiff. It says non-land card. That's another thing. This could have killed the card if you could hit lands, but you can't. You have to hit action with this. So you're guaranteed to hit action off the top of your library. You're guaranteed to hit action off the top of theirs. And a reanimation space. Here's the thing, right? Atraxa is a 7/7 with all these keyword abilities. One of them lifelink, one of them flying, so it gets through easily. All those are good keywords. But this is also a 7/7 with a semi-evasive ability, trample. And rather than putting like 4 cards in my hand I can cast later, like Atraxa does, this just lets me play 3 cards at the same time. Because a tally is one of them, right? I reanimate a tally, that's a card. And then I get 2 free cards immediately. I can just play them for nothing. Like, that actually seems like extremely impactful. And again, just like the other ones that transform, it's like, oh, did that not win you the game? Here, try this, And once you get to enough mana, you have an 11/11 trample indestructible. It's like, God, so stupid. It's very good, man. You may cast any number of spells from among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost, and then nothing happens. They just go to their graveyards. They go to their respective graveyards, don't they? You don't exile the spells or anything afterwards. That's neat. So I think that this card is actually disgusting. I think it's possible that this is actually sneakily, but not so sneakily, the best reanimation target in Standard. And maybe the best ramp target too. I mean, I don't think that transforming this is out of the question, guys. I mean, you've seen us do it. Like, we'll just play a Cityscape Leveler. We'll just play a Portal to Phyrexia. So, like, can we get to 9 in Standard? Like, yeah, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. So, I like it. Now, this is a card for Timmy. See? The first comment. No, it's not, dude. This is a card for Spike. This is a card for Spike. This with that backup vampire and sling it at him, yeah. It's cute. That backup vampire is subtly one of the best cards of the day. I promise you. Invasion of New Phyrexia is a battle. It's a siege. It costs white, blue, and X. And when it enters the battlefield, you just get 2. You just get X, 2/2, white, and blue knight creature tokens with vigilance. So that's not the worst card ever. But when you attack it down, it starts at 6 health. When you attack it down, you get Teferi Akosa. I had no idea that was his last name. Of Zalfir. It's got 4 loyalty. This is a planeswalker. Flips over into a planeswalker. It's got 4 loyalty. You can +1 it to draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards unless you discard a creature card. It's a mouthful. You can also -2 Tefs to get an emblem with knights you control, get +1/+0, and have ward 1. So you made all those knights, and it seems good. You can also -3 Sweet Tea to tap X creatures you control. When you do, shuffle target non-land permanent and opponent controls of mana value X or less into its owner's library. I think this is okay. But just okay. We've seen there's a sort of tap out control deck in Standard right now. And I think this is a decent part of it. When it ETBs, you probably get 3 guys. You play it for 5, you get 3 dudes. Play it for 4, you get 2 guys, And if you ever do get to attack it down, I mean, even without attacking it down, you got 2 guys, But if you do get to attack it down, you get a planeswalker that, like, all 3 of the abilities are good. All 3 of the abilities are usable the turn that you play it. If you still have some knights lying around, the abilities get way better, the -2 and -3. So I like it. I don't think it's like broken or anything, but I do kind of just like the overall package here. So not bad. Not bad. Here's a normal card. It's Mirrored and Avenged. This is just a single black mana. Apparently we can't see the rest of the card. It's an instant. You destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn, and then you draw a card. Is that not what it does? We'll never know. Okay. It really isn't going to show us the rest. That is what it does, though. A single black mana, instant speed, destroy a creature that was dealt damage this turn, draw a card. Is the text. It's fine. Seal from Existence is up next. I got to blast through the ones I can. It's 3 mana, 1 and 2 white for an enchantment with Ward 3 and When Seal of Existence enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Seal leaves the battlefield. This card is good. I hate that it costs the 2 white, so it's not just like better than Oblivion Ring or anything. But this is probably one of the best Oblivion Ring effects or Banishing Light effects of all time. You have to be somewhat heavy white to play it and all that, but Ward 3 on Oblivion Ring is freaking phenomenal. That is very good, dude. Like, that's good. Yeah, how far Oblivion Ring has come. Yeah, it's not just Onion Ring anymore. You get to actually stick that Onion Ring for a few turns, you know. Ward 3 is not a small amount of mana, you know. Traumatic Revelation is up next. The art is the best part of this card, or at least the most impactful part of the card. But it's not a bad card. It's really not. It's 1 and a black for a sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a creature or battle card from it. If you do, the player discards that card. Now, here's the cool thing. If you don't, you incubate 3. So this is one of those discard spells that if you don't hit something, you get upside. I like that. I like that you effectively kind of get a 3/3 if you whiff on this discard spell. And I think that's cool because it basically only hits creatures. I mean, it hits battles too, but like mostly a safety valve for battles, I think, you know? But again, the art is the most tragic part. I don't care that much about Magic's story. I really don't. But like that hurts. That does hurt a little bit. There are a couple of cards we haven't looked at, guys. You might be like, hey, are you serious? Yes. Yes, I am. Because we don't know, to the best of my knowledge, we don't know what the other half of this card is yet. It's Invasion of Urgamon. I don't know what plane this is either. This is a red and a green. So 2 mana, red and a green for a battle with 5 health. When Invasion of Urgamon enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Then you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. 2 mana. 2 mana. It flips into a 3/4 creature. We know that, but I don't think we know what the 3/4 does just yet. Yeah, they only posted the front. But I actually think this card is actually pretty sick. I think 2 mana for treasure token and also like half of a Thrill of Possibility, right? Like imagine this in Atraxa Reanimator as a turn 2 play, right? Get a treasure token to ramp you into your reanimation spell, discard your Atraxa and draw a card. That's really good. Like, I don't care if I ever attack into it. For 2 mana, it pays me ramp and fixing and filtering. Like that, yeah, dude. That just seems very good to me. Yeah, 5 defense is a bit beefy, but again, I kind of don't care if I ever attack this down. Like, I kind of just don't care. Like, let's go. It's like, compared to Citizen's Briefcase or whatever it's called. You know? Is that what it's called? Courier's Briefcase. Because with Briefcase, you get a 1/1 and a treasure token that can draw cards sometimes. But a lot of the time, the best thing about Briefcase is just that, like, it's ramp and a 1/1 guy that blocks. So, like, you get deeper into the game 2 ways, right? You get deeper into the game by blocking a guy, and you get deeper into the game by ramping. And that's just really important on Briefcase. This kind of works in similar ways, right? It doesn't give you a body on the battlefield the way Briefcase does, but instead, you get to filter, which might be extremely important, depending on the kind of deck you're playing. So, like Jund Reanimator. Think about Jund Reanimator, like Cruelty of Gix, getting back Atraxa. This is like, you want 4 of this. Because, like, you want this to be your turn 2 play, like most games. So, I actually think that's, like, pretty gross. I think the card's really, really good. But believe it or not, there are more cards. There's not a lot more cards, but there are more cards. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at Boonbringer Valkyrie, old BBV over here. This is 5 mana. I actually think this card's kind of cool. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 white for a 4/4 Angel Warrior with backup 1. And it has flying, first strike, and lifelink. So you're telling me that this is either a 5 mana, 5/5 flying, first strike, lifelink, which is like pretty good, like Baneslayer levels of like pretty good here. Or it's a 4/4 first strike, flying, lifelink that makes a dude bigger and gives that guy those abilities. Like, all that's good. all that's good. 5 mana might be like a little bit too much, and it doesn't line up. Like, compare this to Phyrexian Vindicator. Which one would you rather play? I actually think I'd probably rather play this guy than Phyrexian Vindicator. I seriously think this guy might be better than Vindicator, but Vindicator costs 4, right? And this guy costs 5. So there's a massive difference there. But I will say, I think there's something to this little dude. I mean, it looks like he could be a bulk rare, 50 cents and all that. But if nothing else, I might pick up a copy of this dude for Cube. He's an angel, too. That matters in Standard, right? Especially if, like, Giada on 2, right? And then, like, 4-drop Angel on 3. And then on turn 4, you tap your Giada to ramp this guy into play, and you give whatever Angel you ramped into play last turn, +1/+1 first strike lifelink. It already has flying. And, like, that could be really good. Like, I honestly, I think backup's a cool ability. And I think it gives you this sort of versatility that could be really important. Like, especially if you're racing aggro or just trying to stay in the game. Like, playing this guy on 5 and giving one of your dudes +1/+1 flying lifelink, like, get you right back in the game. And you've got this guy to block. You've got... First strike is super important on this dude. Let me just throw that out there. Like, even just a 4... Like, if he's a 5/5, that's really good. But even just a 4/4 flying first strike lifelink, that's a really good grouping of abilities, I think. So, yeah, Adeline with this. Whew. Oh, throw this down. Give the boost to Adeline. She gets flying first strike lifelink, attacks for like 6. Like, it seems decent to me, dude. Like, worth, like, at least trying, dude. But, like, every card we see today is 5 mana, I swear. So you just had to be really good at 5. This is Archpriest of Shadows, a 5 mana black creature, 3 and 2 black for a 4/4 human warlock with backup 1. And it has Death Touch. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, this is the thing about backup. Backup gives the creature that you target with the backup ability. Why is she doing the, like, Ahagao face or whatever it's called? She's doing a very weird, like, almost anime face. I've just noticed it. And it really caused me to forget what I was saying. But, oh yeah. Backup doesn't just give the creature you target with the ability, like, the keyword abilities of the guy. It gives the creature you target with the ability all the abilities that follow this reminder text. So you can give, when this comes into play, you can give another creature the ability to deal combat death touch, first of all, but also the ability to deal combat damage to a player or battle and then reanimate something. So, like, that's pretty massive. Like, that's 5 mana's too much. Like, this kind of looks like an intro packy kind of thing to me, and maybe the last guy is too, but, like, if this hits, you're doing all right, you know? And the cool thing is, you do that out of nowhere, right? You play this guy, immediately give some dude the ability to hit and reanimate something. And then, like, next turn, if this hits, it reanimates something. They have to block it. It has death touch. It kills a guy. There's all kinds of cool things about it. I think it plays pretty well once it's on the table, but it is 5 mana. So let's look at Botanical Brawler next. This is green and a white, just 2 Selesnya mana. For a 0/0 elemental warrior with trample, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters. Whenever 1 or more counters are put on, +1/+1 counters are put on another permanent you control. If it's the first time +1/+1 counters have been put on that permanent this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Brawler. So that's kind of neat. It can proc more than once a turn, by the way. It only cares about one thing. You know what I mean? It only cares about that thing getting counters. If it's the first time counters have been put on that permanent this turn. So you can put counters on multiple stuff and get multiple counters. So I think that's cool. It's not like Winding Constrictor or anything like that, but it is very neat. I think it's better than it looks, because some people are going to look at this and be like, eh. And some people are going to look at this and be like, hey. And I think those people are, like, more correct, to be honest. But, oh, let's look at Halo Forager, fixed Snapcaster. Crapcaster Mage, everybody. We've had a couple of those lately, haven't we? This is Halo Forager. It is 3 mana, 1 Endermere colors, black and blue, for a 3/1 fairy rogue with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you can pay X if you want to. When you do, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value X from a graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would put into a graveyard, exile it instead, why don't you? So again, It doesn't have flash. It doesn't cost 2. It costs 3, and it's harder to cast too. It's in 2 different colors. But this reminds me, if you really look at it sideways, of a Snapcaster. I think that this is actually okay. I really do. But I said the same thing about like the card I've actually forgotten the name of that I said was going to be pretty bad. The thing with Prototype that is also kind of like this, you know, but I don't hate it. I really don't. I think that especially in certain like budgety kind of builds, it's nice to be able to have 4 mana and you play this and you play Cut Down out of your graveyard. You have 5 mana, so you play this and you get a free Infernal Grasp or go for the throat out of your yard. Just the fact that this replays a removal spell, I think is dead sexy. I think that's pretty good, dude. But probably not quite good enough for standard play. Not really, but I compare this to, Shriekmaw, Necrotal. I mean, 5 mana to kill a guy. You know what I mean? 4 mana to kill a guy. And that's mostly what you're going to be doing. But you could also cast it for 4 mana and then recast a Consider from your yard. It's kind of a build your own ETB effect. And like cards like this are always okay. They're always okay. You think you're going to have to pay 6 mana, but no, all the best instants and sorceries cost 1 and 2 anyway. So I don't hate it. Really don't. And yeah, by the way, as the chatter just pointed out, it is a graveyard. It is any old graveyard, which makes the card really interesting. You can get stuff out of their yard and recast it, which is very sick. So I like it, dude. I like little cards like that. I don't think it's going to be like super relevant, but it might surprise us. It really may. But we are coming to the end of it all, ladies and gentlemen. This is Scrappy Bruiser. It's a raccoon. It's a 4 mana. It's 3 in a red for a 3/4 raccoon warrior. And when it attacks, up to 1 target attacking creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample till end of turn. Return that creature to its owner's hand at the end of combat. Oh no. So this isn't very good. It's a obviously limited creature that you won't even play every time in limited. So, let's move past that. It's just kind of, it's not even fine. Merciless Repurposing, on the other hand, also not very good. This is 6 mana, 4 and 2 black for an instant. Exile target creature, incubate 3. This is playable as like a one of in your limited deck. It really is. 6 mana instant speed removal is not the best thing in the world, but it exiles. And then it kind of says exile a creature unconditionally and then get a 3/3. Like it kind of says that. Again, like if you play it at the end of your opponent's turn or during their combat step, if you have 8 mana, you can go ahead and pop the incubator token. But like, if you play it during their combat step and kill one of their guys, it costs 6 mana. So it's super likely that when you untap on your turn, you'll have the mana to get your 3/3, So I don't hate it. I think it's kind of okay, but again, just not for standard or anything. And we are scrolling because there's one more. Yep, this is it. This is the card. It's Invasion of Zendikar. This was the first battle that we saw. And it's kind of a piece of crap, to be honest. But Invasion is 4 mana, 3 and a green for a battle. It's a siege. It has 3 health, relatively low health. When it ETBs, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield, tap, and shuffle. The card's not bad. It's Explosive Vegetation, which is a good card. But if you can attack it down, it becomes Awakened Skyclave. It's a 4/4 Vigilance Haste, and if it's on the battlefield, it's a land, in addition to its other types. And you can tap to add a mana of any color. I'm extremely confused, man. Like the card, I'm not confused, don't get me wrong. The card has haste, but that is not so it can attack. That is so it can tap for a mana of any color the turn it comes out. Which I think is neat, because, you attack into this. So by the time you get the guy, the attack step's over. So it's just weird that it has haste, but it taps her mana of any color. So there is that. This is pretty good, really. I shouldn't call it anything. I shouldn't call it crap. This is better than some of the battles that we've seen. I mean, again, it's the exact same cost as Explosive Vegetation, which has been in the past like a playable Magic card, So there's that. And if you attack it, which shouldn't be too hard to attack this down, it's super low health. You bolt it and it dies. Then you get a 4/4, 2 keyword abilities, taps her mana. Like, okay. It's a land, so like if a card says like destroy or do something to a non-land permanent, like he can't be Fading Hoped because that's non-land permanents. If a card says destroy all non-land permanents or something, it's not going to do it. So that's cool. Altogether, I like this. I shouldn't poop on it. I'm ready to be done because it's been like 500 cards. Well, I would look at 500 cards, and I would look at 500 more. Just to be the man you come to look at cards. Hey, there's explosive vegetation. That's what I was saying. But I do think that is the last of the chords. We already looked at Ren and Realmbreaker. I'm done adjudicating that, litigating that, you know. Let's bring the zoom down. Let's lower the zoom real quick. Oh, and just reflect, man. That was a huge first day. Not only we see a lot of cards, but we saw a lot of like banging cards, dude. I would let these cards bang my sister. That's how banging they are. They're just good. Sorry, children. There's some very good looking cards in this set, and we're not even close. I know up here it says 271 out of 271. That's a filthy lie. We have only seen like 83 cards in this set. And we'll see a lot more as the week goes on and into next week as well. So stick with the channel if you're still watching on YouTube after 2 hours. God bless you, first of all. But second of all, I think there's only going to be one more like stream spoiler thing this season. We'll probably do it on Monday or Tuesday of next week. Very likely Tuesday of next week. We'll do a spoiler stream again, but the rest of the videos are going to be just the way you like it, where I'm standing up with the mic, cracking jokes, and I'm you know, it's all that stuff. You guys seem to really be into that, so that's what we're going to do next time. But there were just so many cards today, and I got such a late start. I spent most of the day with my mom, and then I came home, and look, mom. Look how that happened, you know. But in any case, got a late start, and this was just the best, most efficient way to do this, right? So whether you're watching on Twitch right now or you're watching on YouTube a couple hours from now or tomorrow morning, whatever, I'm just glad that you're here. Thanks for stopping by. And I appreciate that we could look at some cards together. I really do. But it's a strong set from what I can tell. Jeez. I think backup is a very strong looking mechanic. And altogether, I kind of like what's going on. I have like some issues with battles, but that's just because I'm an old man. Curmudgeon. I like the battles that you don't have to attack down to get good value, like the reanimation one, the explosive vegetation one. Like I like the ones that enter the battlefield, do something cool, and you don't ever have to attack them to feel like you did something or got like the right amount of value for the rate you're paying. Like those can be good, but the ones that you have to attack down to get like real value out of them, I don't really like those. And I don't know. I've talked about battles for way too long, but ultimately some of these I like. I don't mind, you know. But geez, just adding another card type that is on that level of complexity at all, especially when it comes to newer players, is a whole bag of donuts. So, but I've already addressed all that. I don't want to repeat myself. We've been here for 6 hours. You could have watched like a whole Lord of the Rings movie at this point. in any case, I just again appreciate you being here. Let me know in the comments section if you're watching on YouTube how you feel about the set, what your favorite cards are, what the strongest cards you felt like from today were, because there's quite a few to choose from. You know, Elesh is up there. I like that Zergo and Ojutai, dude. I think that's like an extremely strong Magic card. So just let me know how you felt about it. And Twitch, you stick around, okay? You don't leave yet. But YouTubers, I will catch you cats later. I am Deb from The Place, and I think we're finally done. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind out there in YouTube land.